Hello, dear viewers of BETV. Welcome to this new edition of The Bridge, strictly dedicated to environmental issues. Today, ahead of the celebration of the International Environmental Day, we brought you a special edition on Lake Tanganyika. If you go to the beach nearly everywhere in the world, you'll find evidence of human pollution threatening sea life. Taking time to clean beach litter has numerous benefits, ranging from saving animals to improving the local economy. Focusing on the lake, there has been a huge activity of pollution. People dumping plastic bottles, people dumping trash and everything that ends up polluting the water that we use for washing. When we talk of environment, we mean biodiversity at large. And this includes forests, national reserves, rivers, and as well the lake. We're here to talk of the challenges of polluting the lake. Here we're at Surfy Beach. Surfy Beach is one of the most neighboring beach in the city. We're here to ask them what are the challenges that they are facing when they are to clean the lake.
Twebwe rero turajishinga nuko iki kibanza gisa neza kugira ngo dukingire ibidukikije tonge dukingire.
As the manager of this beach, our greatest concern is the cleanliness of this place in order to save the environment and the sea wildlife too. On the other hand, we do clean this place so that our customers and everyone who come to chill and relax from around feel unleashed by the fresh air, the same environment, and good view to the lake. Apart from our customers, there are those who come for their wedding photo shoot and leisure time, meaning that people are not attracted that much by the food and the drinks, but rather by the cleanliness and fresh air of the place. Concerning the collection of the garbage, we work closely with the office of the mayor and associations in charge of garbage collection. What we do at Surfy Beach, we clean and store the garbage in a conventional place prescribed by city authorities. These later come for our collection once a week, and we appreciate our cooperation so far. Besides city authorities, there are organizations that come at times to give us a hand in cleaning the beach, such as scout groups, the military, and other volunteers. Because this beach is not a property, it's rather a community resource for all. Lastly, I would like to appeal to every concerned citizen to contribute in cleaning up the lake and avoid pollution on and off the lake shore.
Iyi plage si y'umuntu ni y'abantu. Iyo abantu baje bagasanga hameze neza bose birabanezera. Rero turatera akamoko bose bokwama baza bakayifatikana natwe cyane mu gihe cya weekend bafise umwanya.
Dumping is crucial. This may lead to loss of lives, aquatic ones, and as well of human ones. There are various initiatives taken to clean up the lake and ensuring environmental safety. This has been taken by city authorities, the government, and a few organizations that have been engaging in cleaning up the lake and using all the resources it takes. Bujumbura City relies on Lake Tanganyika for drinking and washing water. This endorses the importance of the Lake Tanganyika for our lives and that of our city. This is why having the lake cleaned each and every day, not only by these people owning these places of leisure or city authorities, this is a concern of every citizen. Everyone that comes here to breathe the fresh air, everyone that comes here to relax, everyone that comes here to take some good time, some leisure time with his friends should be interested, should be concerned about cleaning up the lake. This is a work of citizenship. We should all be engaged and have this done before life is lost.
Dear viewers, we're back to you. As I told you, we sought the analysis an environmentalist expert to tell us about the state of the lake. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, to have granted us this opportunity.
C'est bien que vous avez pris cette initiative de me chercher pour justement parler du lac Tanganyika en nous souvenant de cette journée mondiale internationale de l'environnement qui est célébrée normalement le 5 juin de chaque année. Alors, pour le lac Tanganyika,
first of all, I appreciate the fact that you have looked for me to talk about Lake Tanganyika, as we're still celebrating the International Environmental Day. As per the Lake Tanganyika, I would refer to it as a Godsgiven treasure, which we should always be thankful for all the benefits we receive from it. Scientists say that its age goes beyond 12 million years, which is a lot. But coming back to 100 years ago, when one takes into account the resources that the lake produces for its neighboring countries, namely Burundi, our country, Tanzania, DRC, and Zambia, and considering too the various species of fishes, many of them said to be only found in Lake Tanganyika, I emphasize the statement that the lake is a treasure. The second great aspect of the lake is potable water. Research has it that the lake has got 20% of the world's reserve of fresh water, contrary to the waters of the seas and oceans that are mostly salty. I know, for instance, that means engaged in desaltifying the waters of the Mediterranean Sea cost a huge amount of money. Yet for us, we have the privilege to fetch 80% of the water we use for washing, cooking, and drinking at a relatively low cost. If water was being imported to our country like fuel, gas, or other imported goods, imagine yourself how expensive life will be. At last, there is fresh air and relaxation places it offers to us. All these are advantages that Burundians seem to take for granted.
Puis l'air aussi que le lac nous donne, etc. Tout ça, ce sont des merveilles que l'océan nous a données. Les Burundais ne connaissent pas cette valeur.
Coming to that question, today we helplessly witness scenes of pollution, mostly much of plastic bottles floating on water, as well as weed growing into the lake. What should be done and by who?
Comme venait de le dire, la pollution.
Well, the pollution is made by mankind because the plastic bottles and other trash being littered every day on the streets find their way into the water drainage structures of our neighborhoods. And when it rains heavily, they all end up in the lake. In other words, it is mankind destroying the biodiversity of the lake. On the other hand, there is another phenomenon of soil erosion causing sedimentation of land into rivers and finally into the lake. These are rivers such as Motimbuzi, Nhahangwa, Ruzizi, that we are sharing with other countries, and Maragaradzi in the south. These cause tons of land to end up dumped into the lake whenever it rains. This causes the fishes and other wildlife species of the lake to flee for their safety. In the past, when we were celebrating the Lake Tanganyika Day on 22nd July since 2005, I will not forget coming up with a slogan such as Lake Tanganyika is not a dumping station. But on looking at the current situation, I feel sorry to say that we have gone backward in protecting the lake. It's high time to take action and stop littering by protecting the hills topping the city and the banks of our rivers from sedimentation to avoid soil erosion. Coming on the what should be done question, my point is that everything is there written in the Water Code, in its 5th article, that says that all infrastructures must be erect to a minimum distance of 150 meters from the lake's shore. Yet it's not the case, as we see buildings being elevated around the lake. And when the lake has its water rising, people tend to curse the lake, yet it's just expanding on its own space. Furthermore, in the Water Code, Article 33 to 36 state the polluter pays principle, whereby the producers of polluting materials are called upon to pay a fee intended to instill recycling practices in the society. Here, I will suggest industrials using plastic items to pack their goods to put in place mechanism of recycling and have their images cleared from pollution critics. The implementing force should be the government. It's the one that has got the police and adequate institutions to challenge the industrials who violate the Water Code.
Si vous allez dans le même code de l'eau, de l'article 33 à l'article 36, il y a deux principes. Le principe est polluer le payeur. Là, je fais un appel aux producteurs de bouteilles, de l'eau en bouteille plastique, de prendre une autre, je dirais, un autre mécanisme de récupération de ces bouteilles. Maintenant, qui doit agir? C'est le gouvernement, parce que moi, je n'ai pas de police de l'environnement.
On hearing you, I come to understand that every 22nd of July is the day dedicated to the lake, which I didn't know. Could you tell us why the lake is celebrated on that particular date, and what are the activities done to protect its biodiversity since 2005?
Oui, là, je dois dire, c'est un peu de l'historique. Pourquoi est-ce que nous avons demandé qu'il y ait cette journée nationale de lac Tanganyika? C'est que les quatre pays qui partagent le lac, donc la Tanzanie, le Burundi, la RDC et la Zambie, ils ont vu qu'il faut quand même faire quelque chose pour protéger la biodiversité du lac Tanganyika.
Well, this has got a historical background. At a certain point, the authorities of the 4 countries sharing Lake Tanganyika banks joined efforts and worked together in order to protect the Lake Tanganyika and its biodiversity. The talks that took place in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania in June 2003 resulted in the creation of the Lake Tanganyika Authority that has its office headquarters based in Bujumbura. On the other hand, the Lake Tanganyika Authority was charged with the task to monitor the ratification of the earlier mentioned treaty. In Burundi, the Treaty on Protection of Lake Tanganyika and its biodiversity was signed on the 22nd of July 2003. Since then, my ministry took it as a reference date of protecting the Lake Tanganyika, its resources, and sovereignty. Ever since, a series of sensitization rallies were engaged, meant to bring people to live in harmony with the lake. Talking about what has been done concretely, I would mention the efforts made in sensitizing with environmental clubs implemented in primary and secondary schools, the cleaning activities engaged at various beach shores, as we were fighting the then deadly water hyacinth, a weed that deprives fishes of oxygen. I can say without bragging that these initiatives taken inspired decision makers to put in place the 2012 Code of Water that reserves special attention to Lake Tanganyika in its 5th article, as earlier mentioned.
En fait, en 2012, le gouvernement a promulgué ce Code de l'eau qui consacre quand même cet article 5 du Code de l'eau sur la protection de la biodiversité du lac Tanganyika, la zone tampon, etc., et puis comment traiter les déchets, etc.
After all these initiatives taken, what is the state today? Can we say that the situation is satisfactory? Still, there are great challenges and achievements too. For instance, Lake Tanganyika Authority has of recent benefited from a financial assistance from the European Union to implement a project in the 4 neighboring countries on the Lake Tanganyika entitled Latawama. In Burundi, the project is seeking to rehabilitate the Buterere-located sewage treatment plant, which constitutes one of the great sources of pollution to the lake. The second expected outcome of the project will be the establishment of a laboratory assessing the rate of pollution in the lake, as it has been many years since we were not able to evaluate how polluted the lake was. With the establishment of such a laboratory, Lake Tanganyika Authority shall come up with evidence and will blow the whistle on pollution louder. Another great achievement is that of the government of Burundi, which through the concerned ministry has adopted a coastal development plan to regulate construction around the lake, which I believe will boost the ecotourism sector in the country and generate a huge income as a touristic site.
Comme le gouvernement le stimule, ça va profiter au gouvernement en créant, je dirais, des activités d'écotourisme.
Speaking about the cycle of the waters of Lake Tanganyika, we've heard that Lake Tanganyika pours its waters into River Lukuga and so on. Could you give us details on that cycle?
Je dirais que le cycle il est là. Comme nous l'avons dit, nous avons le lac Tanganyika.
Well, Lake Tanganyika is itself constituted by rivers, as earlier said. There are over 100 rivers reported to be flowing into Lake Tanganyika from the 4 neighboring countries. Technically, the lake has to flow into another so as to save place for the water coming from the 100 rivers. For years, Tanganyika was flowing into River Lukuga, from the Lukuga to Fleuve Congo, and finally to the Atlantic Ocean. But today, the Lukuga is said to be overwhelmed and can no longer accommodate the waters of Lake Tanganyika, which caused the rising of its waters. The rising of the waters of Lake Tanganyika is reported to happen after every 50 years. The first case of rising is said to have happened way back in 1878. At the time, Dr. David Livingstone, a European philanthropist, later joined by journalist Henry Stanley, the two witnessed the rising of the waters of the lake near Kabezi. The second time the waters of Lake Tanganyika rose was in 1938, but it caused no damage or casualties as there were no population on the shores. After that, there was a peaceful transition up to 1963-1964, a time when Tanganyika caused loss of lives and property equivalent to the 2020-2021 water rising, according to the Geographical Institute of Burundi, Ijebu. In 1963-64, the water rising was so costly to the extent that authorities from the 4 countries neighboring the lake met once again on 20th to 23rd April 1964 to evaluate what to do in managing the Lukuga being overwhelmed each passing day because of the sedimentation due to soil erosion. This is the cause of all the series of water rising that we are witnessing. It's high time for the fore government to set and evaluate how the 2003 treaty that led to the creation of Lake Tanganyika Authority are being implemented, and what should be done to consolidate the action undertaken so far. Recently, I got photographs from fellow environmentalists depicting how the Lukuga is suffering from tons of land sedimentation, causing the latter not to accommodate the waters of Lake Tanganyika. It's been 56 years from 1963 to 2021. Let's endeavor to avoid the same trouble and make sure Tanganyika does not rise again in 2007. If every one of us contributes, we can fight pollution, respect the lake's surroundings and biodiversity, to harvest smart fishes and attract more tourists. If we do so, we shall see how thankful to the Creator we will be for this treasure. Otherwise, where would we get the water we use for washing, cooking, bathing and drinking, and at what cost? And if the fishes keep fleeing, it will be a great disgrace for all of us, not only Burundians. That's why I took the initiative to write this book entitled Conseil du Lac Tanganyika. It's a novel that comes with a scenario whereby the lake summons its sisters, the rivers, seeking explanation on every 22nd of July on pollution cases. The lake was angry at the rivers and the letter to explain that it's none of their fault. The rivers took their defense by accusing mankind with daily evidence of pollution from communities' neighborhoods to the rivers and finally into the lake. Basically, this novel is a collection of advices on how to protect and live in harmony with the lake. All this written in a magnificent figure of speech. Lastly, I'll wish the National Water Sewage Company, the Régie des Eaux, to fetch the water we drink at 1 kilometer and 800 meters as it was in 1980. Per today, the Régie des Eaux fetches water at a distance of 3 kilometers. If we keep on polluting the lake, Régie des Eaux may be forced to extend from 5 to 7 kilometers in the next 20 years, for instance. And this may lead to an open conflict between DRC and Burundi, as the lake border between the two countries will be reached.
Dans les années 1980, la Régie des Eaux captait l'eau que nous consommons à 1 km 800 mètres. Mon souhait serait que la Régie des Eaux capte les eaux à 1 km 800 mètres comme c'était dans les années 1980.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for having granted us this opportunity. The pleasure was mine because communication is important. I believe this message will reach a wide audience that will on its turn take action.
Dear viewers, this marks the end of our program. Let's catch up next week for another episode of The Bridge. Stay tuned to our programs.